Wednesday, November the 30th. Lake level is about 909 and a half. It's down about 8 inches from what it was last week, which is got us about 7.5 feet low. Water temperature is actually coming down quite a bit. It's been in the high 50s first thing in the morning. Depends where you're putting in, but 57 to 59 degrees in the morning. And there's two different bites going on. There's a deep bite going on, which has been phenomenal. And there's the shallow bite is starting to pick up. You know, with this colder weather, the water temperature's cooling down. The shallow bite should actually be better than what it is, but maybe it's just going to take another week or so. Because the past weekend, I think the weights were still real low. It only took 13 pounds to win the Wenners Series bass tournament, which was a 6-fish limit. So, you know, right at about a 2-pound average. And that's a lot of what we're catching out deep. I mean, it seems like you can catch 10 to 11 pounds, but you can catch 50 to 70 fish in a day doing it. And I'm catching them on a drop shot and a spoon. But, you know, on with the shallow bite first. I'm starting to catch some on a jerk bait, and I've been throwing a Spro mixed stick and just shad colors. And I'm fishing these on the secondary points, some main lake points, and some bluff ends where the cedar trees, you know, are sticking up out of the water or just below the surface. And I'm still catching a few on topwater. We caught a few on a redfin, I think it was Monday, and also a spook or like a Strike King Sexy Dog. But on my topwater bite, it seems like I got to work the baits real slow. That's why the redfin was working good, or like a walking type bait like a spook or Sammy. Just, you know, it seems like you got to work it side to side real slow. And I'm fishing that in the same place around the cedar trees and on bluff ends. Seems to be the best place for it. And it seems to be, you know, working up till about 9 o'clock or so. And the deep bite, you know, see, Friday and Saturday I fished down by the dam. And I thought the bite was terrible down there, even the deep bite. But I was on some good deep fish before I went to Toledo Bend before Thanksgiving. So I went back there the first of the week. And they were kind of in the same areas, just actually a little bit shallower. And I've been up in the White River, and they're all over the place from Campbell Point to Baxter up to Shell Knob. And a lot of what I'm fishing up there is just main lake points, just either on the points or to the sides, and mainly keying on gravel. A lot of times you'll see the big schools of shad, and a lot of the fish are real tight to bottom. You know, a couple weeks ago when I was catching them, they were 6-8 feet up off the bottom and anywhere from 45 to 50. But the last few days, the majority of the fish we're catching, in the morning they seem to be about 28 feet or so. Then as the sun gets up, they're getting out as deep as 40, 45. But they're dead on the bottom. And some of the places I won't even see a fish until I drop a bait down, either a drop shot or a little grub or a swim bait. Then you'll see the fish come up off bottom. And once you get one fish hooked, it's been crazy. You'll see fish worming up off the bottom. And then I've been picking up either a 3/4 ounce white spoon or a Rapala ice fishing jig. And I think yesterday my guy counted I had like 10 fish on 10 consecutive drops. It's just the drop shot and the spoon, when they get fired up like that, you can't even hardly get the bait to the bottom before you get a bite. But, you know, it isn't like that every point you pull out on. A lot of times you got to spend 20, 30 minutes, you know, going around with the trolling motor, trying to see if you can see, you know, anything on the bottom or just off the bottom, and that's a good place to try to drop. Now, they've been biting a little bit of everything for me. The drop shot worms, been throwing a lot of White River lures, 4.5-inch worms. This one's kind of like a cotton candy, a plum, and then he's got one that's like a purple with a light brown laminated. That's probably the one that's been working the best, you know, to get the fish to bite. Once the fish start biting, I don't think it matters, you know, what color, but this laminated one has worked the best for me to get the first couple bites. And also what's been working good is I've been, you know, years ago we used to drop a grub and it gets it a lot. Well, I've got a 1/4 ounce jig head, and that's a 2.8 Kitech. And then also White River Lures makes a 3.5 inch kind of the same color as the grub would throw. Throwing it on a 1/4 or 5/16 ounce head. And I'm using it in the same place that I'm using the drop shot. Like I say, a lot of these fish, a couple weeks ago, there was a lot of gulls and loons out in the area, so you could kind of just drive around, or if you're driving down the lake and you see this, pull over there, stop, idle around, you'll find the fish and the bait. Now, we've been looking for some bigger fish out over the deeper trees, some of the trees that are in 80 to 100 foot of water. I still haven't found the real good largemouths out there yet. Normally in the wintertime, in the center of these deep creeks, where it's got anywhere from 50 to 80 foot of water, where there's still submerged timber, you can catch them largemouths out of the top of the tree, either on the white spoon, or ice fishing jig, or the drop shot of the grub. But I'm still catching Kentuckies out there. I am catching a few largemouth each day, mixed in with these Kentuckies, and a few smallmouth. But most of the fish out there have been Kentuckies. And there's also been, a little bit of a wigglewort or bite, crankbait bite or spro rock crawler. And it seems like I'm having to get on the steeper banks with the bigger rock, almost like bluff style banks. And I think you could just run down a bluff, just parallel the boat real tight to where you can almost touch the bluff. That way you can keep the crankbait, bouncing off the bottom in that 6 to 10 foot deep. But they seem like they've been on, the bigger rocks, stuff like that, or just inside pole timber and cedar points, where there's cedar trees. The problem with the lake level as low as it is, normally if it's at normal lake level, you can get in behind the trees without having to fish the crankbait through the trees. But the lake right now is at a level where you're having to get out in front of the trees and actually, crank through and around the trees. So you will get a few crankbaits hung up from time to time, but those type of banks there seem to be working a little bit better on the crankbait for me. And I'm surprised that I haven't been throwing it, but I haven't heard much on the A-rig. It's actually time for that A-rig to really start catching some good quality fish. And with the weights they had last weekend, the guys that are throwing it, I would say the big fish probably aren't biting it yet, because we didn't see any big fish. I think there was a right at 4 pounds was the big bass. But as that water temperature cools down, that A-rig's going to become a big factor, especially on the quality of the fish. So till next week, good luck, good fishing.